Well, g'day, Bubba. How are you getting on there, mate?
Good, Craig. Yourself?
Yeah, good, mate. It's really good to hear your voice. I enjoyed the weekend in Brisbane and watching the game. Just let me give a bit of a update for you, mate. Our Techo guys managed to lose our pre-game interview for the test for last Saturday night.
Yep.
And by way of recapping our subscribers, you tipped the All Blacks by a narrow margin, 4 to 6 points. I tipped the Wallabies by 1 point. You were right. We were both in the parish. But with the All Blacks victory, this first time that either of the teams, All Blacks, Springboks or Wallabies, have won every game of a Tri-Nation series. Is the current All Black team one of the greats, or are they as great as their predecessors, or is it just that the Wallabies and Boks of 2010 weren't up to the glory days that their predecessors presented, mate? The likes of Eels and co. Is that the difference, or is this All Black?
How many questions did you ask me? Quags, I'm an old front row. How many questions did you just ask me? You just asked me one question.
The general gist, mate.
I can't remember. But I've packed in so many scrums, my brain's scrambling. You asked me about 10 questions in a row.
Anyway, a quick summary for you, mate. How good is this All Blacks team?
Mate, they're very good, but I was reading the Kiwi press after the game, and I gave I said New Zealand to win by, I said 6 points they'd win by. But I was even reading the New Zealand press after the game. They must be worried because they don't look a flash side without Dan Carter. Like, if Dan Carter falls over before during the World Cup, they're in big trouble. And then you had Neil Armour go off in the first couple of minutes to hooker, and Corey Flynn came on, and he looked like an Australian hooker. He missed about 4 throws. He was woeful. The backup 5'8", reminded me of Pat Howard in his first test. He couldn't kick, pass, catch, run or tackle. Crouton, I called him Crouton. And the All Blacks actually didn't spark up until they hooked him in the 65th minute, and then they started to get a roll on. So he was woeful as well. So I think the Wallabies got a lot of positives out of their game, and the All Blacks certainly some question marks as well. Even though reading New Zealand press, I was saying, hang on, what happens if Carter falls over? We're in big trouble. All Black scrum was very good. Reading the press, the Australian press, they think they did all right in the scrum, but the All Blacks were just, we held a few scrums, but they were rock solid the whole game, and when they scored that blindside try from the base of the scrum, that was, they were just rock solid. There's 2 of the scrum where they wanted to go. Line out was pretty woeful until Flynn started to hit the mark, probably in the second half of the last 20 of the second half. Our back three are sensational. Beale, Turner, and O'Connor, they're really, really sensational. So I think, reading the Australian press, reading the New Zealand press, and my own impression is that Australia can improve, and All Blacks a bit of a question mark over them.
Well, Bubba, that's what I took out of the game as well. There are a lot of positives. Firstly, there are a lot of positives in the Tri-Nations, free-flowing rugby tries back on, a lot of development, particularly by the Wallabies. But also this McCalman, mate, what did you make of him? I'd never heard of his name.
Oh, he was pretty great. No, he's from the Central West. I mean, I don't know much about him. And as you know, I refuse to watch Super 14. I think it's like what I hate Super 14. I won't watch it. I'd rather watch grass. I'd rather watch French. I love watching the French Union on TV. At least people are allowed to kick people and punch people. But Super 14, you put a foot on someone, you get sent straight off. I hate it.
Well,
so I don't know what franchise he's playing for, but yeah, he's definitely he's my type of player. He's got to go forward. He hits everything in front of him, and I think Brown won't get his spot back. That McCallum will stay there. He's a very good player.
Well, look, that explains it. I didn't realise he was a Central West boy like yours truly, but he made a noticeable difference, didn't he? He had that mongrel that's been sadly lacking.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah, Australian forwards have been lacking a mongrel, as you know. I've been giving it to him for years, but he certainly got the go-forward mentality, which I like.
Now, mate, you mentioned the brilliance, and, mate, I've got to say, even with Lockie Turner coming in, for Mitchell, they didn't lose anything, and the back three, like it has all year, has been the shining light. Before the game, in the interview that our Tecos lost, you made the point about there wasn't many options to attack, through or around the ruck. I almost got the impression that Genny is almost like, I saw one time he normally would have done a quick tap, he didn't. It was almost like, let's not show all his cards. Now, is that one of the things the All Blacks might, not just the whole Dan Carter thing?
No, I think the All Blacks are just off the mark. I mean, they normally, if it was Ed Carter, they had their full strength side on, they normally try and shut us down as quick as they can to stop the ball going wide, but they just couldn't do it on the weekend. And and if they're off the mark and they're just that half a step slower and moving up in defence, using the width of the field works, as we saw against Springboks last week. But if you've got a very structured defence and they're really concentrating on shutting us down before the ball goes wide, and you're a world class team like the All Blacks, you do get it right most of the time, but they didn't get it right on the weekend.
Well,
we're able to use the width of the field. I was just thinking that the back three blokes are probably getting paid, the three of them are getting paid less than what Giddo's getting paid, and he's definitely not playing well at the moment. He's still persisting with his kicking, so I'll give him a rest from the kicking and see if he can play first, because he's definitely,
having his off nights.
Looking. Well, he's had a few off nights this year, and that was an off night. He was very quiet on the weekend.
Yeah, well, that's what's worrying me too, mate. Look, there's no doubt he can kick, when he's on song. The problem is kickers have got to be on song every week in international footy, especially when you're, losing 10 points. I mean, they had a 100% kicking record on the weekend. We lost 10 points with 4 misguided kicks, 3 from 7 against the All Blacks. At the end of the day, if you take the goal kicking out of it, the Wallabies deserve to win. But, mate, you talk about the All Blacks coming back with a stronger squad, guys coming back into it, especially, obviously, Carter. Yeah. But the Aussies have also got a lot of injuries, a lot of blokes out. Digby, Ione, Hines, Shepherd, Mortlock, Horwell, Vickerman, Parlew, Higginbotham, Pelota now, Alexander and Kepu, mate, maybe we need to bring back Warren Smitty too. They're not over the hill yet, but there's still a lot to be bolstered to our squad. I mean, up until the last 3 games, you and I had pretty much written the Wallabies off for 2011 when they go to play in the wet marshlands across the ditch, the place some people call New Zealand. You give them any chance now? They can figure in the finals?
I'm not in the bathroom cutting my wrists now. About a month ago, I was in the bathroom and I had the warm bath going. I was flashing up. Thinking about next year, so I've given that away and I've taken the noose out of the cupboard. I'm not going to hang myself. I think definitely that we're finishing off with a much more. You saw that in the crowd too, like the Australian public came back on the weekend. There were 70,000 people at the game.
Yep.
If they'd lost against the Springboks, you'd probably be lucky to get 40 there.
Yep.
And I think everyone's starting to feel a bit more positive, which is good. And there's a bit of a dent in the All Black armour. I thought Henry was, Graham Henry should have played his best side just to put us away, put that psychological, but it's backfired because Australia's really coming out, even though we lost the game.
Yep.
A game we should have won. We've coming out, I think, better than the All Blacks have.
Well,
they've just scrambled home.
A lot of demons were exercised by the Dane to those last 3 results, and had Carter been there and we'd been pinned against our 22, the pressure on the hooker, it could have and probably would have gone pear-shaped. Mate, here's the closing question for you, Bubba, before we break away to eat some muckan. But, mate, do you feel the All Blacks have shown their hand too early? Have they peaked too early? And are the Boxers spent force for the 2011 World Cup?
I think the Boxers have gone. They've got enormous troubles off the field in their administration, the coaching staff. They've got enormous problems. And if you go on the South African press and on the internet and have a look at just what's being said about them, I mean, the knives are out. It's pretty shocking over there. And the coach could go before the start of the World Cup. So a lot of problems, aging team. I didn't see many positives out of the Springboks this year. in Australia, I was very, very pessimistic at the start of the year when England just smashed our forwards around the field like a bunch of kindergarten kids.
Yep.
And here we are, 3 months later, and I'm a lot more positive. Yeah, we've got to. I'm not saying that I'm just a lot more positive outlook than what I had 3 months ago.
Yeah, look, mate, for me, it's boiling down to the World Cup for Dan Carter, mate. If he's fit, obviously the All Blacks are difficult. And to that tune, if Dan Carter, the other side of it, we said he's so critical, such a big impact on the team. If he's injured, they've got real problems. Let me twist the question around. If he's on the paddock and he's healthy for the entire World Cup, can any other team control the All Blacks when Dan Carter is there, mate?
Mate, well, definitely the French. If they come across France, I haven't checked the draw. If they are going to come, have you checked the draw?
No.
When they're going to come across France?
Yep.
The French are just. The French have got the wood on the All Blacks. They've done them in 2 World Cups, knocked them out. They play like men possessed. They're good across the whole park. The French, they tend to dominate the All Blacks when they're on song and the forwards in the lineouts and the scrums. They've got such a superb domestic competition. It's the toughest club comp in the world.
Yep.
And they just, even though they've got a lot of overseas players there as well, they do. The French should put out a very good side next year. So, the All Blacks just hope they don't come across the French because even when they're at full strength with Carter, that'll be a worry for them.
Well, and what about the Wallabies, mate? Can they knock off the All Blacks if they meet them in the final, or if Carter's on the paddock, it's just going to be too hard to?
Yeah, mate. Anything's possible in rugby if you believe in yourself. I'm starting to get a bit of self-belief, so anything's possible. I'd be catching Carter at the bottom of the ruck and I'd scalp him. That'd put him off. That's what we'd do in the old days. Put the whole forward pack over the top of him, jump on him, and then scalp him and finish him off. That'd something coming back on the second half.
Well, it's a bit harder these days with the rules being so pro.
It is. It's terrible. Yeah, I shouldn't be saying that.
But it's only going to be a matter of, within 1 or 2 seasons, I'm expecting to see teams have to change their uniforms and be replaced with pink leotards. But, ultimately, mate, what if we were to get a few kilos of carver, and if the Fijians sort of meet them in the early games, we just sort of shout the carver, and perhaps the Fijians might do everybody a favour.
Yeah, the only problem is they've all gone religious and not drinking carver at the moment. The coach is to ban the carver. They probably won't go as well next World Cup. Not as good as the last World Cup when they made the quarterfinals. Yeah.
All right. Well, look, I hope to see you back in, training a team and doing some scrum training and doing the brilliance that you're known for, and hopefully modern rugby will get away from the suits and balaclavas and back to real rugby players doing the coaching, not the guys with a bit of paper and dad in the right spot. Well, listen, Bubba, I've got to shoot off. Really appreciate your time, and make sure you...
Craig, give my regards to the lovely district of Geylang in Singapore, will you?
I will indeed, and all the other haunts.
To Lorong 18, last time I went down there, some very attractive people, but the 5 o'clock shadow and the miniskirts didn't go down too well, brother.
Well, the 3-legged tripod sausage looks always in Asia, mate. So, look, Bubba, I look forward to you coming up here, and we'll try and get you up to help coach the Katekas and the Managas in Bali 10s in October. Great talking with you, mate.
No worries.
See ya.
See you, Craig.
See you, Bubba. Cheers.
See you, bye.